So today we are going to start looking at the electrical on this Honda Passport C70. So I've got a 6N11-2D 6-volt battery for this bike. As you can see, I dropped it. Brand new battery. Didn't crack it, it's not leaking, so we're all good there. It's just a bit of stress on the plastic. So either way, I'm going to go ahead and get the bike up on the stand, and we'll go ahead and look at getting this battery hooked up. So the way that this battery is connected on this bike is the positive terminal gets connected to this lead here. The negative terminal is actually grounded to the body at the point where this strap, or whatever you want to call it, gets bolted onto the frame. So it grounds against the bolt that then goes into the bare metal in the holder. When I got this bike, the lead for that was not there. So what I'm thinking is that whoever took the battery out of this bike previously left that negative lead on the battery. So the first thing I'm going to do is quickly just rig up a temporary ground lead that I can run off of the ground side on the battery to where we're going to be attaching the battery strap to. So let's grab a bit of wire. So what I've got here is just some simple single strand copper. This came out of some heavy gauge stuff that I use to actually connect my generator to my panel for backfeed into my house during power outages. So we'll get this stripped off and we'll get this hooked up. So I'll bring you back when I'm ready to get the battery in the bike. Okay, here goes. Key on, ignition switch on, horn. It's trying. That might be a horn issue. Blinkers, blink and then stop. Right side. So maybe our blinker, our winker is gone, and no headlight. So here we are in tight with the horn. Key is on, and we try the horn. I'll assume you can hear that. So the horn is trying to work, and then we just need to clean the horn up and that'll work properly. I had to do the same thing on the XL. So I guess the one main thing I was hoping to see actually work at this point was the e-start. So right here, there's an electric start button on this bike. So with key on and let's see, is this key off, key on? We should see this blinker come on. Boop, there you go. Turn it off. At this point, our e-start should work, but it's not. I'm pretty confident this is in neutral. So, yeah. So we're going to have some electrical troubleshooting to do when we're ready to start putting this thing back together. As is always good practice, you know, make sure you got your bag of bags. Because when you're taking stuff off these bikes when you're restoring them, one of the best things you can do is label the bag, put the hardware in the bag, so you know where your hardware is when it comes time to put stuff back together. So I've got a couple bolts that come out of the tank. When I took the tank off, same thing, some hardware and a bolt when I took the seat off. So you can either keep that with your components wherever you store them to, or you can just keep them all in one location. So I might get a little box this time and put all this stuff in it and organize it, and just label it so I know where each of the bags of parts are. Either way, let's finally start taking this bike apart. So previously I mentioned I was going to start with the motor, but I think what I want to do is just work my way from the top down. So I'm going to start off with taking everything off of the bars and getting the bars and stuff apart. We get that all bagged up and put aside, and we'll just progress our way down. But once I get the bars and stuff done, get most of the accessories and stuff taken off the front of the bike, we'll work our way to the back, we'll start taking stuff down. And then before I take the wheels off, I'll make sure I take the motor off things. That way we can make use of the lift for as long as possible. As soon as the wheels are off, we can still use the lift. I can use the milk crate to keep the frame up, but it's less secure, so I'll probably have to use a ratchet strap or something to keep it on. But either way, start picking this apart. So now that the headlight is out, this whole thing is ready to just fall apart for us. So we got a few things still connected, a bunch of stuff for the wiring harness connected here, and the like. Our choke assembly is still connected. So I'm going to go ahead and get a few of those connections removed, and we'll pop this off. So when we tested out the headlight before, we essentially got no joy. It wasn't working on the bike. So I just went ahead and hooked up a couple wires here. So I've got a ground wire on the negative side. I can hook the ground of the light to that. And then I believe blue is low beam or the always on. So if I go ahead and push my wire in there and touch that, sure enough, we've got light. Okay, so now that we've got all our components, or most of our components, the ones we can test with some electricity anyways, out of our handlebar assembly, what I want to do is quickly test each of our blinkers. So here's our right side blinker. We got some properly working light there. Left side blinker. That one's working. Now we've got our actual cluster lights. So we've got our turn signal. We jam that in there. Okay, our turn signal bulb is good. We've got our neutral indicator. That bulb is no good. And we've got our high beam indicator. And that bulb is good. So, one of the things we need to replace is our neutral light. Perfect. Continuing on. So at this stage, we got all the bars off, everything disconnected up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave everything mechanical together for the time being. I'm going to go ahead and turn the attention to the ass end. So we'll go ahead and get our tail light, blinkers off, get that part of the harness disconnected, and then we'll look at taking the motor out. Okay, so the tail light assembly, blinkers, and the little harness piece are off and put on our part shelf over here. It's time to go ahead and start taking stuff off of the motor-ish area. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off the exhaust. We'll go ahead and get our carb and whatnot off, get our wiring harness disconnected, and that way we can pop the motor out. So let's go ahead and start taking those components off. So you might have caught it just at the end of the fast forward section here. This muffler's in pretty rough shape, so you can see right here, and this is on the inside, so this is not visible. It's all cracked off here. So this thing is mostly useless. I mean, I'll take the guards off it and stuff like that, and obviously the mounting bracket, mounting it to the bike, but then other than that, this thing is trash. So I'm definitely going to end up having to source myself a new muffler. Well, even if it's used, but something I can take and refurb so we can put it back on the bike. Now that we've got all those random bits and bobs taken off, I'm ready to go ahead now and take the intake, carburetor and whatnot off so we can get ready to pop the motor out. Okay, that should be everything disconnected from the motor now. So all I really need to do at this point is let off these bolts here and get this switch springed away in here. Loosen those up, knock them out, and our engine should drop right out. So let's go ahead and take that out now. So there's our little 70cc semi-auto engine motor with electric start. So as I mentioned before, this bike only has like 1,300 kilometers on it, which is, you know, not a whole lot. Like, you know, say 800 miles-ish maybe. So I don't think this is going to need to be rebuilt. Now, one thing I noticed is on the other side is like the oil seal around the kicker is leaking a bit of oil, and it is grungy. A rebuild on this is not difficult. It's a pretty simple motor to work on, and usually like gasket kits and stuff like that are pretty cheap for it. But we'll see. There's a vent back here. I just put an extra piece of hose on it for the time being, so that way nothing gets in there easily. But in the meantime, what I want to do now is I'm going to pull the wiring harness out of the frame, get all that stuff detached, put that aside so we can get it set up for testing later on. And then we'll go ahead and get the forks off, wheels, swing arm, shocks, and that's it. We'll have a completely disassembled bike. So, moving on. So there's our very simple wiring harness. So we've got our plug lead, got our winker and a rectifier here. The tail end, and we also got the piece that's up with the tail lights over here on the stand. So now that our electrical is out, we can finally finish this off by taking off these back pegs, the rack, and the rest of the mechanical components. As you can see, we've a general lack of brakes. No springs, no pads, no nothing. So let's get that on the shopping list, shall we? Okay, let's get the swing arm and the shocks off now. One other quick thing I want to note too is this tire is brand new. Now, brand new in the sense that it has no wear on it. My thought was that I'd be putting 2 new tires on this, but I guess we'll see. As you can tell on this tire currently, it has all those new nipples all over it, and there's literally no wear. So I guess the one thing I'll do is see if I can find another one like this, and if I can clean this up and make it look good, then the one that gets replaced on the front, because it's all dry rotted and cracked, I'll try to match this tire. It's an IRC tire. See the model name on it, NR6, IRC NR6. We'll have to have a look. Either way, continuing on. So I guess without a lot of penetrating fluid and the correct socket to go down over that nut, that ain't coming off. So what we'll do to clue up here, just gonna go ahead, pull the front wheel off, and we'll call it a day. So there you have it. That's our 1981 Honda C70, about 98% disassembled. So as I mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and order the socket to get that nut off so we can get the front fork off of this, and then we can focus on the actual restoration process. So we'll likely start with probably getting the frame blasted and cleaned up, primed and painted. Same with the forks. And then if I can just turn you guys around quickly for a moment and show you the parts that we'll then start working on cleaning up and restoring as well. Now we've also got a few things we're going to end up needing to buy, depending on how, I guess, good a bumper repair kit is. We'll see how we can do with that front fender. I'm sure you've seen it go squish when we had it on the deck there a little earlier. And then our muffler, we're definitely going to need a replacement muffler. And the other big piece we're going to need is the shin guard. But either way, this is where we're at. I want to thank you guys for coming along for the ride. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.